Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, February 12th. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over the Titans' potential options with the number one overall pick in this year's NFL draft. In this segment, we turn our attention to the NBA. As we do every single Wednesday, we get into our NBA power rankings, 30 to 1. We'll go over what changed and what's going on in the NBA as we reach the NBA All-Star break. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, February 12th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the NBA power rankings here for you as we have hit the All-Star break officially. Some big news from around the NBA, and we're going to start off at number 30 with, of course, the Washington Wizards, an absolutely abysmal team. They made some moves at the trade deadline, weren't some massive moves. They got off of some contracts, took some big guys that other teams just wanted to offload. They're not going to be able to see a lot of the fruits of their labors for a while, but they did recently go on a 3-game win streak, which cemented them as officially not the worst team in NBA history. Confetti for them, right? Congratulations. That's huge. But this is not a good Wizards team, and they're going to continue to sit at number 30 probably for the rest of the year. At number 29, we have the Pelicans, a team just destroyed by injury. They traded away Brandon Ingram. I understand he probably wasn't going to re-sign with this team, and they were able to get a guy, they were able to get someone back for him, right? They were able to basically get 1-for-1 back for him, but still, it's not a good look for this Pelicans team that had a lot of promise and a lot of potential heading into the season if only they could have stayed healthy. At number 28, we have the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz also not a very good basketball team, right? They're sitting there in the basement. They're dealing with their own major injuries. They didn't get rid of any of the guys that could have fetched a lot at this trade deadline, whether that be a Walker Kessler or whether that be a John Collins that they have that's been playing pretty well in limited action for them. The Jazz, not a good team. They're going to continue to try and build. They've got some semblance of a core that maybe you can kind of build around, but they're not really that close right now. At 27, we have the Hornets. They've been awful without Ball on the court. It's not been good. Injuries have also ravaged this team a little bit. You have Miller and Ball both being out for the foreseeable future or for the rest of the season, as well as a couple of other major pieces just kind of blowing up in their face, right? They tried to offload Mark Williams for a rookie that they could have taken this year in Dalton Connect. That has not worked out. They're really trying to get the rescinded trade to be reapplied. They're fighting that any way they possibly can. I don't really know what's going on there. It's kind of a messy situation for both the Lakers and the Hornets at this point. Hornets really wanted to get off of Mark Williams for some reason. The Lakers caught whatever that reason was. This is not a good look for the Hornets, and they're still sitting at the bottom of the league. At 26, we have the Raptors. They're up a spot from last week in our rankings. They were able to get a guy in Ingram and give him a 3-year extension, so they're going to be able to keep him on this team, a guy that I think could be a real game changer. Put him next to Scotty Barnes. Those two could go to work pretty good. You've got a solid group of some young guys and a guy in Brandon Ingram that can be that veteran leader, has been on a team that's made some playoff runs. This is going to be a fun Raptors team if they can just get it all to click. It's been a while since they were able to, but I do believe this Raptors team is starting to find the little recipe that they need to get things going. At 25, we have the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are back where they wanted to be, right? This was supposed to be an intentional tank job, right? This was supposed to be a bad team, but they started off red hot. They had to get rid of the parts that were doing good. They had to trade away Dennis Schroeder, who was on a tear. They had to move off of a couple more guys. They bought out Ben Simmons. He's now off the court, although if they wanted to lose, probably having him on there was pretty good. The Nets, I mean, God, they're trying to lose, so they're going to continue to be bad at basketball, but I feel like they're a lot closer than they want to be to being good if they had just kept the roster they had heading into the season. At 24, we have the Bulls. They offloaded a little bit, but they didn't really get too much back. They haven't been the best at getting value for trades. We remember Caruso, they didn't get too much for him. They could have gotten probably at least a first-round pick. Instead, it was basically a one-for-one Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey. They didn't get too much for Zach LaVine, although he did have a bloated contract over there. There's a couple guys on that team that I think they could have gotten more for. Vucevic is a guy that I think they could have traded at the deadline. He was having a pretty solid season. Instead, they hold on to him. This is a Bulls team that's going to be fighting for a play-in spot. They'll win a couple games, but again, they're not really anywhere close to contending. The 76ers are here at number 23. They finally have a fully healthy big three, and it still hasn't gone very well. They've lost both of their last 2 games with all 3 of them on the court, and Joel Embiid said that he might need surgery again. It's like the worst of all worlds for them, right? This is a team that if they can get healthy right now, they're not so far behind in the East that they can't find a way to get into the play-in, get into the playoffs, and make some noise, kind of like the Jimmy Butler Heat teams of old did. This is a team that could do that because they have a Joel Embiid, who's a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA when healthy. They have a Paul George that shouldn't have fallen off so hard just due to injuries, and you have Tyrese Maxey. This team has just really been extremely disappointing, and I was expecting a lot more out of the Philadelphia 76ers this year. At 22, we have those Portland Trail Blazers. The Trail Blazers fall down 1 spot on this list. They didn't do anything at the trade deadline, which is fine. I would have liked to see them try and make some moves to the future, but Scoot Henderson's been playing better. Denny Avdija, since they got him in a trade from the Wizards, has been pretty good when he's on the court for the Blazers. This is a Trail Blazers team that I think is close to being able to compete for a playoff spot, or a play-in spot, I should say. It's not going to happen this year, but maybe next year we see them inch their way into the postseason. At number 21, we have the San Antonio Spurs. The De'Aaron Fox trade has worked out marvelously for them. He's been one of the best. He's been a great pairing over there for Victor Wembanyama. They've won a couple of games here, but this is still a team that is not quite ready yet. They're trying to figure out their rotations with all of the guards that they have. They have a lot of guards. They've got Chris Paul, they got Stephen Castle, they have De'Aaron Fox, all guys that should be getting minutes, but you only have those 2 guard spots, and it's kind of tough to fit them all in, right? But they really don't have depth at the center position and in the front court, right? They need to go out and get some more guys because they're dealing with injuries down there. If they can shore that up a little bit, and if guys can get healthier, maybe they can make a little bit of run down the stretch here. At number 20, we have the Atlanta Hawks. I didn't really love the moves that they made at the deadline. I put them in that losers category. I kind of wanted them, if they were going to blow it up, full commit, right? Instead, they kind of half-heartedly blow it up. They get rid of some pieces that I think could be nice. They get some okay guys in exchange. Trey Mann is someone that I think could be something. You get Karis LeVert, who, if he's healthy, could be a solid bench piece, but I don't think they really did anything. They just kind of got stuck in the mud where they are, and I don't think it's going to help their future. At number 19, we have the Orlando Magic. We finally saw what happens when they get a little bit healthier, right? Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero went out there and had a pretty good game the last time out. We haven't seen that since the beginning of the season. This is a Magic team that was red hot. I thought they would be a top 4 team in the East. Instead, their shooting numbers haven't gotten any better, and until they can fix that, they're not going to be a serious threat of any kind. The Heat are down 4 spots to number 18. They've lost 2 straight games since trading away Jimmy Butler. Andrew Wiggins has come in. He's going to play a pretty big role on this team, but this Heat team needs to figure out how to play with Andrew Wiggins and how to get everybody involved, because their team didn't change that much, but they do need to start to turn it around if they want to make some noise in the Eastern Conference playoffs. 17 goes to the Suns. The Suns didn't make a single move, or a single major move, which is kind of bad for them as they're the most expensive team in NBA history, and they're only 500, right? They have a lot of players that they would have liked to move out of either Bradley Beal or Kevin Durant, it sounded like, to get a little bit of a cheaper roster. Instead, they're stuck with what they have. Not necessarily a bad thing, but they need to find a way to make it work. Otherwise, this is going to be the most disastrous big 3 in the history of the NBA. At number 16, we have the Detroit Pistons. They continue to climb their rankings here. I like this Pistons team a lot. They're not going to be a team that's in position to make too much noise in the playoffs. But again, every time we talk about this Pistons team, the big thing that stands out with them is, of course, the fact that they were the worst team in the NBA last season, and now they have a chance to make the playoffs, not just the play-ins, the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, and that is incredibly impressive. Cade Cunningham is going to be an all-star, and I'm very excited for the future of basketball in Detroit. At number 15, we have the Mavericks. Everything that could have possibly gone wrong for them did. I feel like karma is hitting them as hard as possible for the Nico Harrison decision to trade Luka Doncic, just seemingly because of a personal vendetta, right? Anthony Davis goes down, potentially going to miss the entire season after that trade, and that just makes it look bad, right? More injuries following this team. It hasn't been great. Fans are saying fire Nico in the stands, mouthing it, and then getting thrown out of the game for that. They're scared to show their own fans on the Jumbotron. This is not a good look for the Mavs. They need to, there's not really a solid fix for this. The quick fix is to fire the general manager, but they're not going to do that. Jason Kidd is not having press conferences after games, which never happens in sports. That is, this team has just become a dumpster fire very quickly in front of all of us, and I don't know how this gets fixed. They're going to start to tank soon. I don't think they make the playoffs this year. At number 14, we have the Sacramento Kings. They were, the pairing of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and has been amazing, right? This is not a team that really lost a step after losing De'Aaron Fox, which it doesn't say anything about De'Aaron Fox. It just says about how this Kings team is built. This is not a team that's going to have deep playoff run potential, but I still think they'll find a way to make it into the play-ins, potentially even the 6th seed in the West. We will see. At 13, we have the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors and Jimmy Butler have been a match made in heaven. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler having those two playmakers on the court, two scorers that can move without the ball, with the ball, be the main guy that you can rely on, have been huge. It really has. They've won 2 straight games since Jimmy Butler has entered the lineup, and he's been the most successful by points debut over his first 2 games for the Golden State Warriors in their history, aside from Kevin Durant. So this is a match made in heaven, it seems like, and I can't wait to see how far they can go this season, because it's tough to guard both of them when they're playing their best. At number 12, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. They lose Giannis Antetokounmpo due to an injury. He has been out for the last 5 games. They're 2-3 over that stretch. Would have liked, it sucks when you lose an incredible player like that, but they haven't been awful. They haven't lost all their games. They're starting to be a little bit more of a complete team, especially defensively, after some of the moves they made at the deadline, but this team still isn't really, I think, a real title threat. At number 11, we have the Clippers. They're starting to get a little healthier. They got Kawhi back. They still have James Harden. They add Bogdanovich, who's going to be a great creator and shooter for them, either coming off the bench or filling out that starting unit. That is going to be a huge get for them as they get into the playoffs, spreading the floor for some of their stars. And I like this Clippers team a lot. At number 10, we have the Pacers. Always up and down with this team, right? They're a good team. They really are. But this team has now lost a couple in a row, and I don't know when this skid stops, right? This is a team that always has been a go as Tyrese Halliburton goes. And Tyrese Halliburton has never really been a super consistent player. They have a lot of other guys on this team, and I think they'll be able to turn it around, but they're just on the edge of that top 10. At number 9, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards has been amazing. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't running away with the MVP award, I think we might have to have some conversations about where Anthony Edwards stands for that award right now. But Anthony Edwards is the future in Minnesota. He's showing that he can lead a team on his own, and he's keeping this Timberwolves team basically single-handedly alive, because the rest of that team just is not playing great basketball right now. At number 8, we have the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets lost 6 straight. That was their longest losing streak of the season, the longest losing streak of Ime Udoka's career. They stood pat at the trade deadline, probably smart, because they do have a very young roster that is not particularly built to make a deep run in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens when they get there this year. They'll find a way into the playoffs. They need to start shooting a little bit better, but the defense should carry them. They've held a lot of teams under 100 points this year. Their defense has been one of the more impressive parts of their run this season. At number 7, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. We saw Luka and LeBron play together for the first time earlier this week against the Jazz. Their chemistry is pretty good. We saw Luka look incredibly happy to be playing over there with a team that wants him. He lit up when he was able to find LeBron in a deep outlet pass, scored 14 points on limited minutes. He's going to be on limited minutes until the All-Star break is over. But once the All-Star break is done, expect to see a lot more Luka out there. And I think the sky's the limits for this team. They went and they got Alex Len. They got a center after they rescinded the Mark Williams trade. Alex Len isn't going to be a world beater. He's not going to be someone that completely changes the dynamic of this team, but just getting an extra big body, a veteran that knows what he's doing in Alex Len is going to be a huge get for them, and the Lakers are in the top 7. At number 6, we have the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are a team that I'm just concerned about, right? And it's nothing that they're doing wrong. It's just the fact that it's a Tibbs coach team, and those teams don't tend to last too long into the playoffs, but they're amazing. This is a Knicks team that is really good, especially in that starting 5, and they're only getting healthier right now. Getting into the top 5, Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets crack the top 5 for the first time in a while. Nikola Jokic is a crazy player. There's no one like him in the world. He's the best player in basketball, and that's really what the Nuggets boil down to, right? If you can't stop Jokic, you can't stop this Nuggets team, and nobody can stop Jokic. So this Nuggets team is going to continue to be a bulldozer. At number 4, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant is back. He's playing great basketball. Jaren Jackson Jr. made the All-Star game. This is a really good Grizzlies team, and that's the sleeper team out of the West right now. They're not getting a lot of coverage because it's Memphis and it's the Grizzlies, but come playoff time, they're a team that could surprise a lot of people. The Celtics are at number 3 yet again. Again, they didn't do too much at the trade deadline, but this is a Celtics team that won the NBA title last year, right? This is still that same Celtics team that won the title last year. They're going to continue to be that same Celtics team for a long time. And they have most of that same roster back. There's only 3 guys, and they were all minor guys that weren't on the roster last year. This team is stacked. Don't forget about them. The Cavs at 2 have started to slip a little bit, but the addition of Hunter from the Hawks has been huge for them. They don't miss Karis LeVert that much, and that's what I was worried about. Some of their bench guys really stepped up without him there. And he's going to add some decent length to help defend them. He's going to be their kind of anti-Celtics guy. Although he might not be the greatest defender, he's just going to add some length on the outside to slow down a Celtics team when they run into them in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And at number 1, who else but the Oklahoma City Thunder? They just got better. And it wasn't through a trade, it was through health-related stuff. They get Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren playing together for the first time all season, and that duo has been amazing. Their 2 7-footers over there are just going to wreak havoc across the league. They were so good without a center. Imagine now that they have a center, it is going to be wild. I cannot wait to see how good this Thunder team is, because they're great and they are ready to continue building this team for the future with the armada of draft picks that they have. We'll run through the top 10 again real quick. Pacers at 10, Timberwolves at 9, Rockets at 8, Lakers at 7, Knicks at 6, Nuggets at 5, Grizzlies at 4, Celtics at 3, Cavaliers at 2, and the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 1. Let me know what your thoughts are on this list. I would love to hear them. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention to the MLB. Opening day is just about a month away. I cannot wait for that. We are going to start going over every single team and their offseason, and we're going to start off with the MLB World Series champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.